Okay, I call the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Captain Fonz, could you lead us?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Captain. Clerk's roll call. Lisa, please.
Commissioner Cuspa,
Here.
Commissioner Jaski,
Here.
Commissioner Boyer is coming, I assume. Commissioner Hubble, here. Commissioner Hammett.
Here.
The agenda was posted and distributed to all news media requesting notification in accordance with the open meetings laws on May 10th, 2024.
Thank you. Approval of minutes. Has everyone had an opportunity to look at the minutes? Two of them, 2/18 and 3/14 of 2024. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from 2/18/24?
And motion to approve those minutes.
Okay, Commissioner Hubble, a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And passes. Minutes for the meeting on 3/14/24. Do I have a motion to approve?
Interpret.
Commissioner Jaski, second. Commissioner Hubble. All those in favor?
Aye.
And that passes also. Report from the police chief. You're up next, chief.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just going to go over a couple of our recent happenings here so that you're kind of up to speed. This morning we had a SWAT call that required assistance from the Suburban Critical Incident Team. Ultimately, this morning, somewhere prior to 7 a.m., there was an incident involving a suspect that took a knife in a domestic violence situation to the victim's throat while she was holding a child in the Kristen Downs subdivision. Ultimately, we kind of he ended up being a barricaded subject he was not coming out. We called our resources in, surrounded the area, and then ultimately our negotiators in terms of Lieutenant Johannick and Officer Sartorius were able to coerce the suspect out of the residence, and ultimately we did receive a full confession from the individual.
It was on like autopilot and I turned left on Janesville. So ultimately we took the suspect into custody. No one was injured, no one was hurt. But I do give a lot of credit to our staff that was on the ground. Sergeant Patterson from last night, Lieutenant Rozeski this morning, Lieutenant Johannick, CRO Sartorius, and our detectives for handling that case. And we couldn't have done it without the support of the Suburban Critical Incident Team. So that's just one of those issues that thankfully it doesn't happen too often, but it is something that we need to be prepared for. Ultimately, several counts of recklessly endangering safety are being forwarded to the district attorney's office. The suspect is currently in jail. It was a busy weekend. We had a subject that was in a mental health crisis and then started a fire in one of the 8 families on Cornell Circle. So what that does is we have to interview each family of the 7 other places, and they end up being victims. So it's charges up because when we arrived, there was a small fire, and it was, I wouldn't say active in terms of a whole building, but we were able to extinguish it relatively quickly. But that results in several charges of recklessly endangering safety as well. If you've been paying attention to Facebook, one of the victims is reporting that her car was stolen in the Fountainwood subdivision. I will tell you that at least initial reports are her car, she left her purse and the keys in the car. And she is expressing frustration on social media about the response from the Milwaukee Police Department because the GPS is going to a specific location. As you know, jurisdiction-wise, it is something that we argue we're not going to just show up to a place in Milwaukee without, and then they're busy in terms of priority. So we ultimately did recover that vehicle and are working through that. This is just something that you've seen before. I've done it in a newsletter. I've done it on social media. Unfortunately, we've had a rash of 3 to 4 off the top of my head stolen cars, specifically from the northeast quadrant of our city. All of the cars are recovered in the city of Milwaukee. Every single one of them, the keys were in the car, and the cars are unlocked. So they're having success coming here.
In the driveway.
In the driveway. They're having success coming to Muskego because I've done these interviews. We don't lock our cars. And ultimately what that's doing, it circumvents some of our other issues because flock cameras don't help. because it's just a stolen car. They're committing more crimes as a result of it, and it's just becoming a mess. But we are actively doing our best to try to combat that issue. We also had a pretty significant call over the weekend reference on a family on Michi Drive where there was a domestic violence incident where the male party was pepper sprayed by a female party. Ultimately, unfortunately, or fortunately, how you look at it, the children were removed from that residence, and both parties did not wish to pursue anything further at that point, but the children were removed as of Monday. But those are significant cases that are just in the past week. It's been a busy couple of weeks. I also want to comment, I left you copies. I can't comment on all the specifics on purpose, and I'll explain that in a second. It is a lawsuit, but if you recall, this is a lawsuit reference, and I mentioned in there because there was a previous complaint that I handled and determined that it was unfounded. I am setting up, Attorney Warchel will meet with you in the next scheduled Police and Fire Commission meeting. We'll have a close, we'll go into it and we'll discuss it on the advice of counsel. I'm not going to go into the specifics of that. You can read it for what it is. Obviously, that's the affidavit straight from the plaintiff. I will tell you that the plaintiff and their counsel has requested a stay until termination, and you can look up online yourself via CCAP. The suspect is charged with multiple felonies in Waukesha County Circuit Court, and they've requested a stay until after completion of the criminal proceeding. You can read into that how you would like, but I just want to keep you informed of that. Yes, we're being federally sued. However, we have a plan in place on how we're going to combat that. Today, progressions for Jammin' on Janesville are continuing in our planning. Obviously, Jammin' in the park is different. It's a different footprint, but we are still going through our emergency action plans and figuring out what's the Goldilocks as far as what makes the most sense as far as police presence at that event. I can tell you I requested and I did initial conversations with Chief Schulteis from the town of Norway, reference mutual aid. It's come to my attention several times. We've had officers in, including a use of force incident at Lakeview School, and I'd like to try to see if we can get something permanent so that we can have our officers responding, specifically our school resource officer, if we have an issue at Lakeview. I think that our relationship there is, I'm looking at you, but our relationship there is paramount to where we go. It makes it difficult for me to just send officers there, much like when we did our SRO briefing. I was sitting there going, well, wait a second, all four of us, none of us have actual jurisdiction in what we're doing in an official capacity. Speeding complaints are hot and heavy as spring has come around. Public safety is on Monday. Specifically, I'm getting several on Woods Road. I've gotten a complaint from an alderman on Hartkey Drive, and also Ladwig is another one that we continue to have issues with. We're doing the best we can. I will tell you, other cases do take priority, and we're going to continue to try to combat that, which leads me to staffing. I just want to give you an update of where we are with staffing. We do have an accepted offer with Sarah Tuchel. She graduates from Carthage on Sunday, as a matter of fact, and she will start the academy in late July, which is really great for us. However, for timing purposes, she won't count for us until next year. We have two other individuals in backgrounds. I'll leave their names out of it because they haven't had an accepted offer. And that individual would bring us up to 41 sworn. Dan Ganslin did believe us. He took a set of military orders to Florida, and then he does not plan on returning back to the city of Muskego. If he does, when he does return, he's going to take an offer with the city of Brookfield. Captain Fonz did an exit interview with him. The primary reason was money. It is difficult. The city of Brookfield is paid probably about $10,000 more than what we're paid. And so it's just one of those issues that we're running into with inflation. We're combating each other on all these wage scales. Trying to stay competitive is a challenge, specifically for Muskego. We're probably in the bottom third of comparables. We'd like to be in the middle area, but it's continuing. Some of the raises that have come out recently have been pretty significant in terms of some of the stuff you probably see on the school board. It would make you scratch your head, but we just need to stay competitive.
And just to keep you guys in the loop, I have an ongoing recruitment process now for officer. So in case that the next person decides to leave, it puts her 2 weeks in, we're not scrambling trying to put a process together. So I do have an ongoing recruitment. I'm just going to take a list. So if we need to onboard someone, it'll be a much quicker, more efficient process.
With that, of course, it's budget time with the mayor and the common council. We're coming up with our preliminary estimates. I don't want to give you the specifics, but I am going to be asking for more personnel. It's pretty much a requirement for every chief to ask, at least keep asking every year. It depends on if it happens or not. I look at, because I bet you've done this 100 times. You just keep asking and try to see where it falls and make sure. I will just tell you, I don't ask for frivolous things. I'm going to ask for it. I'm going to have data to back it up to make sure that we can justify it. Clearly this last week alone, because justified, we have these SWAT calls, and granted, thankfully we don't have them that often, but it completely paralyzes our department for hours on both sides. And I say paralyzes as a scary term. We're making it work, but all the other things that we get complaints about, the retail thefts, at Fleet Farm, the speeding complaints, the parking issues over here, that all gets taping. And then we're not as responsive as we need to be and would like to be. But obviously priorities takes where we need to go. I will tell you, we're also finalizing our intergovernment agreement with the RNC committee, just part of our skit. I think I've told you before, we are only allocating our individuals that are a part of skit to be part of their planning process for the RNC. However, us internally, we don't know what that footprint is going to look like. We have locked down the schedule outside of major vacations just to make sure that because we have CDU that could be responding and some of our other events as well.
What is SCIT?
SCIT is Suburban Critical Incident Team. It's our SWAT.
It's 9 jurisdictions, multi-purpose SWAT. Okay.
Covers the cost for that.
The RNC has supposedly, and that's part of our back and forth with Attorney Warchel, is the grant is supposed to cover, and it's work now, get the money later. But we've also been on that end of it, and you're laughing of like, it doesn't always necessarily make us whole. But we're going to support law enforcement, but I want to make sure that we're doing it the right way and have the right agreements in place.
And we could talk later about like what SCIT actually is and what the agreements are, because I may give you a better picture too, and what other missions we've done in the past. For example, with all the rioting in Wauwatosa a couple summers ago, that was something we participated in. So I can meet with you to kind of give you a better idea what that looks like.
Yeah, I'm here. So yeah, big deal.
We're in the midst of our firearm transition. I've told you this before, previous to, for the entire time I've been at the police department, we all had individually owned weapons, which is all well and good. Everybody gets to pick their own, but that means there's 6 different manufacturers, 3 different rounds. We are consolidating that on purpose for training, and we're doing that transition. And we're actually giving all the officers pretty top of the line stuff in terms of optics and the firearms. And I think it's long overdue, and consolidating to 1 round so that training, maintenance, all that stuff. And then, quite frankly, if you're involved in a critical incident, we can replace the gun with the gun that somebody's trained on, which makes a lot more sense. As far as some of the capital things that I'm looking at, Flock, I will just tell you, Flock camera, if you're not familiar with it, is an automated license plate reader. We are testing, we're paid for and we're testing some of them. The first one that went in was vicinity of college in Moreland. And we've already had some success with it. And you may have heard about this too. It was a possible child enticement, a weird set of circumstances, but we ended up determining very quickly through the use of flock cameras, which are stationary camera units on your roadways, that this vehicle, there was a legitimate purpose of that vehicle being there and being able to identify within minutes, hours, that the whole case was done. We have other locations that we're working on, and then I'm going to be submitting for others, because if you're aware of it, Muskego is ripe in terms of just the geography and how it's set up, that I can get a lot of the traffic in and out of Muskego covered with these specific cameras, which is a crime prevention tool. I can say the last 2 times that we used it effectively, and I mentioned at our last meeting, in a snapshot, Katie Sobiak actually save that 13-year-old girl from North Carolina as a result of flock cameras. And then we had our incident just recently. So that's been something that I'm interested in continuing to move forward. Other than that, hopefully I spoke fast enough, Lisa Gilligan.
Thank you.
Did you have anything else you wanted to add? Any questions?
Okay.
He's looking at. Can we move forward on it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you
I was
wanted Captain
double
Fons to
checking.
comment on something. Okay. Disregard that. Motion of a closed session. Lisa, can you please read the motion?
Following conclusion of consideration of the above portion of its regularly scheduled agenda, the Police and Fire Commission will meet to vote on a motion to convene in closed session for discussion on an officer personnel matter. A closed session for the above purpose is authorized pursuant to the provisions of Wisconsin State Statute, Section 1985-1C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. Upon conclusion of the closed session, the Police and Fire Commission will convene into open session to consider its public agenda, including motions to recommend approval or rejection of the above listed deliberations or any of the public agenda items that have not been acted upon.
Can I get a motion to go into a closed session?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay. Keith Hammond, you first. And Terry Boyer, you're second. Lisa, can you please read the roll?
Commissioner Cuspa,
Yes.
Commissioner Jaski,
Yes.
Commissioner Boyer. Yes. Commissioner Hobble. Yes. Commissioner Hammett.
Yes.
Wow. We are now in closed session. So I have a motion on the floor for the nomination to a position of president of the commission.
And I will like. I'll second.
That was the best.
Even.
We were all going to say that.
All those in favor?
Like.
Thank you very much.
Something.
Election of the vice president.
Now slash secretary.
It's funny to
I'll second.
Say it again.
They're one and the same, vice president slash secretary.
Okay, the
You know.
president / secretary. So I have a motion on the floor
Pete,
by Commissioner Boyer, Peter Jeske, to be both the VP and the secretary. And who was the second on that one?
Waste to watch that.
Commissioner Hammett? Yes. All those in favor?
I thought I voted on that last year. I doubled your.
And
yes.
congratulations, Commissioner Jeske. You are not only the VP, but you are the secretary also.
Dual role.
Court stuff.
And moving on here to the next side of the page. Date of the next meeting, August 15th, 2024. If anyone has any challenges with that date working out,
For me.
I guess you could see how your summer goes first. That's almost for that time we're back to school and
Let's go get out first.
Don't even.
back
That's it. That's it.
and those kiddies are out of that daycare system. Okay. Looking at an adjournment here. Do we have a motion on the floor for adjournment?
Here.
I have a second.
Mr. Jaski, second by Commissioner Hobble. All those in favor?
I
And it passes. We are in a adjournment.